I try to see holidays for what they are. They're excuses for people to just have fun and to buy things, to be consumers. Just take a whole 365 days to focus on your goals, focus on making more money, focus on kind of getting yourself back or to the position you want to be in. I think if most people did that for just 1 year, they'd be so much further ahead. But I think most people are unwilling to do that. I think partially it's because of peer pressure. Partially it's because of FOMO. You feel like you're missing out on something even though you already know exactly what's going to happen. You've been repeating the same holiday every single day for the past decade or decades. They're all the exact same. You know what to expect. You know how it's going to turn out. You know exactly what each holiday encompasses and what it's all about. So I don't know why that FOMO would ever exist. By the way, huge request, leave a like below, click the like button and please leave a comment. The YouTube gods do not like me. They do not push my content out very far. I don't know if I have a shadow ban or what it is, but I get my reach, despite how many subscribers I have, it gets to 5 people. So every like you give this video would help immensely. It'll help reach people like you that might enjoy this content. So the whole idea behind this video is that basically as Americans, we take way too many holidays. And I personally believe that all these holidays really just distract you from your overall goal and prevent you from getting ahead in life. Now, the idea for this video, I've talked about this before in previous videos, but the main reason why I wanted to make this video is because I had a sort of a disagreement with my wife. We had a bit of a dispute. And we made an agreement to cut back on how many holidays that we celebrate. Just to give context, my wife is super big into holidays. She loves holidays. She loves birthdays, anniversaries, weddings, Christmas, all of those things. She loves it all. All the holidays, she loves them all. She loves to celebrate them. She loves to go big with them, which I think is fantastic. I think that's great. I'm a bit different. I don't hate holidays, but I'm more or less indifferent to holidays. What I mean by that is I don't particularly see holidays as anything special. I think holidays are pretty man-made. I think they're manufactured. I think in the grand scheme of things, most holidays are just designed to distract you from whatever goals you have. I don't think this is unintentional, by the way. And I think that a lot of holidays are really just ways to get people to spend more money to boost the economy. I really think that's all it is. It's an excuse to stimulate the economy. When you think of most holidays, what are you really doing on all these holidays? You're just spending money when it comes down to it. Christmas. What is Christmas? People say Christmas is about the birth of Jesus, and people tie religion into it. But in the reality, let's be real. Most people don't care that much. If you're someone, even Christians I know don't care that much about Christ when it comes to the holidays. They care more about the gifts that they get from Christmas. If you were to say to everyone who celebrates Christmas, who views it from a religious standpoint, you're not allowed to get a gift, but you only are allowed to celebrate the intended purpose of this holiday, which is, I guess, the birth of Christ in this example, they'd probably have issues. I think there'd be a lot of pushback on you requesting that of them, which to me indicates that the religion part's the excuse. The reality is that the gift giving, or the gift receiving in particular, the discounts, the capitalism, that's the thing that people like the most. When you think about birthdays, what's the purpose of a birthday? Is it really to celebrate your age? Is it really to celebrate you getting older? People make it that way. I think really people like an excuse to have a lot of attention, and they like an excuse to get gifts for free. Really, when it comes down to it, I think that's the truth of birthdays. Most holidays, 4th of July, if you were to ask people what the 4th of July is truly about, sure, there are some people who understand where the 4th of July came from, why it's a holiday, what the historic date represents as far as American society is concerned. But in the reality of things, I think it's an excuse for people to, depending on when the date falls, take off work, party, and get drunk with friends, which is fine. I think that's completely okay. But I try to be realistic, and I try to see holidays for what they are. They're excuses for people to just have fun and to buy things, to be consumers. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying that if you do it too much, it is a horrible thing. So we had a disagreement. Typically when holidays come around, we always find ourselves having disputes about how we should celebrate the holidays. Me personally, I think for me, the biggest dopamine hit I can get is feeling like I'm achieving something. And it doesn't need to be feeling like I'm achieving something from the standards of society. I just need to personally believe I'm moving in the direction of a goal. That's how I find happiness. That's what makes me fulfilled. So if I'm, for example, writing a comic book, and I am writing a comic book right now, I'm not going to put the link below. If you want to go find it, you can text me, message me. You'll find it if you want to find it. This is not a plug. But I'm trying to write a comic book. I've been trying to learn how to draw. I've been trying to learn Portuguese. I used to know Japanese. I'm trying to get back into it soon. And I used to be decent with Spanish. I'm trying to get back into it soon. I'm trying to read more. And I'm trying to grow my company, Productivity Accelerator. Again, not a plug. I do think by default there's a link in the description. I'm not going to add one. If you want to find it, you can just type it up on Google. This is not a plug. But working towards my goals makes me happy. There's no holiday that substitutes that happiness. There are zero holidays that make me feel happy the way that me achieving my goals makes me feel happy, which is why I don't celebrate them. Because to me, celebrating the holidays is a distraction from that happiness that I get by just being more successful. For a lot of people, I think the holidays is that kind of break from that 5-day work week begrudgingly go through. I think for a lot of people, they just don't like their jobs. They don't like the idea of having to work all the time. They don't like the way their life is turning out. And so when you kind of get that break, when you get that day off, when you are allowed to kind of celebrate with friends and buy things and you have an excuse to do so without feeling guilty, people take that opportunity. I'm not saying that's bad and I'm not judging, but I do think that in the grand scheme of things, it does lead to a lot of problems for most of society. Now, when we were kind of having our discussion, I said to her, I don't like the idea of us kind of arguing about holidays. So let's meet in the middle. Let's celebrate some holidays. We can pick like 4 holidays that are extremely meaningful to you, and those we can celebrate and I won't work. We can celebrate those guilt-free. For the other holidays, you can celebrate them, but I probably might not be involved with them. I think that, to me, is the best way to go about it. Maybe perhaps on that particular holiday, I've worked enough and I feel like I've achieved enough and maybe I want to take a break, to which case I'll celebrate the holiday. But I kind of communicated that if I don't feel like I've got enough done, I will not celebrate this holiday. You can celebrate this by yourself or with your friends, of course. My overall stance on this kind of came because I did the math years ago. I did it like generally, like I kind of just spitballed in my head a bit of the math. And I would see a lot of people complain about their circumstances in life. They would say how they don't have money. They would say that they can't get in shape. They would say that they don't have a good social circle and they don't have time to do things. And what I try to do is I do try to read things, but I try to kind of observe things. I think there's a big power when it comes to observing how people behave. I tend to find that the things people say don't match with the way people behave. So if you really want to get the truth about how someone truly is, watch what they do. Don't listen to what they say. I've known many people, for example, and I'll get into this in a future video. I'm not religious. A big part of why I'm not religious is because I've seen many people who are religious speak about how they're religious, and yet when it comes time to be religious, they do the exact opposite of what their specific religion suggests they should do. Not even suggests, demands they do. I've seen people who are Christian, for example, cheat on their wives or their girlfriends consistently with no remorse and no regret, and even in many cases use Christianity as a justification for that cheating, or they'll hurt people and use Christianity as a justification of hurting someone. So I've learned from personal experience, people say things a lot. What people do matters a lot more than what they say. It's kind of like when you see a friend who talks a big game. He or she will say, yeah, I can definitely do this, or I'll do this, or you can leave it up to me. I'll get this done. And then like months, years go by, it never gets done. So you eventually lose faith in them. That's kind of how I've come to see things. So I've seen people who kind of complain about their circumstance, and yet whenever I see them, they're always partying. They're always doing holidays. They're always going on vacations. They're always celebrating something. And in a funny way, I laugh to myself and think, what are you celebrating? You've achieved nothing. And this isn't me being mean. This is me just being honest and just me observing what is in front of me. Now, you can make the argument that behind closed doors, they've achieved a lot, which could be true. But my only counter to that is, if you achieve so much, you wouldn't be complaining about what you haven't achieved. So chances are you're not doing the things you want to do. Someone might say, oh, well, you just said that how people behave matters more than what they say, to which I agree, and to which is still true, because you complaining is more of a behavior than it is. Complaining is about the things you say, but it's about the attitude you have towards something. You're complaining because you're unhappy with a certain circumstance. You're acting a certain way. You can be someone who is voicing a concern, but who's very content with where they are in life. That's not complaining. Big difference. So I would see these people complain, and they're celebrating holidays, always partying, and I thought to myself, how many holidays do people celebrate per year? And if they didn't celebrate these holidays, how much further along would they be financially? Because for most people, I think if you break it down, finances is probably the biggest setback most of us have. Most of us want to get more money. Most of us want to be able to spend our money the way we want to spend our money. Most of us probably run out of money before we run out of month. So I sat there and thought about it for a bit, and I realized, first of all, most holidays, you're not celebrating, like the holiday itself is not the thing that deters you from your goal. It's a combination of the days or day leading up to the holiday itself, and then the day after or the days after the holiday, the recovery phase. Hopefully that makes sense. And when you think about it, you're always sort of celebrating a holiday in some sense. Now, I kind of did a little bit of the math on this, and initially I didn't include weekends, but I'm sort of including weekends when I say holidays because weekends for most people is a day to relax. It's a day of non-productivity. It's a day in which they're not really achieving much or they're not trying to work towards their goals. But even weekends aside, if you think about it, you start the year off on a holiday. New Year's, that's a holiday. You begin on December 31st and it crosses into January 1st. And usually there's a recovery phase after January 1st. So you kind of start off the whole year in a negative state, assuming you celebrated the holiday. You're probably a little bit hungover, a little bit tired, a little bit upset that you have to go back to work because you spent maybe about a week or so celebrating this long holiday, Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's. Then you go back and you barely have that much time before you have things like President's Day, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, Cinco de Mayo. Then you have holidays like Martin Luther King Day. There's tons of holidays that effectively give you the excuse to do nothing. And not only are you doing nothing, you're encouraged to spend your money. You're encouraged to spend money to go out to parties. You're encouraged to spend your money to buy clothing to celebrate this event. You're encouraged to spend money to buy lots of decorations and ornaments, like lawn ornaments, costumes for Halloween, gifts for other people for Christmas, big feasts for Thanksgiving. You're encouraged to spend money. That's what holidays are about, spending more money. I haven't done the math on this yet, but I'd be interested, and if someone in the comments wants to do this, I'll certainly use whatever you do for a future video. I'd be curious to see what the math is on how much money is spent per household, per holiday, like for each holiday. Not even like the holiday itself, not the specific day, but like the days leading up to that holiday for an entire year. I'd be curious to see what that number is, and I'd be curious to see like how much of a difference that number would make. Overall, when I kind of think about it, I think most people would be a lot better off just taking at least 1 year to just not celebrate holidays. None at all. No weddings, no anniversaries, no birthdays, none of the major holidays, none of the minor holidays, none. Just take a whole 365 days to focus on your goals, focus on making more money, focus on kind of getting yourself back or to the position you want to be in. I think if most people did that for just 1 year, they'd be so much further ahead. But I think most people are unwilling to do that. I think partially it's because of peer pressure. Partially it's because of FOMO. You feel like you're missing out on something even though you already know exactly what's going to happen. You've been repeating the same holiday every single day for the past decade or decades. They're all the exact same. You know what to expect. You know how it's going to turn out. You know exactly what each holiday encompasses and what it's all about. So I don't know why that FOMO would ever exist. But again, I'd be curious to know what would happen if people just didn't celebrate holidays for an entire year. I think most people would find that they'd be able to get a lot of momentum if they really committed themselves to achieving a goal. They'd get a lot of momentum. They'd get a lot done. They'd save a lot of money. They'd be a lot more focused. And by the end of the year, once they hit New Year's, they'd find, fuck, I actually got a lot done because I wasn't distracted. And the joy I got from actually growing and feeling like I've achieved something is far greater than any minor dopamine hits I would have gotten from getting drunk at St. Patrick's Day weekend or getting a bunch of gifts that I don't really care about for Christmas or buying that tree for Christmas or buying that costume for Halloween and going out and getting drunk or grilling with a few people on 4th of July, even though I can grill with those same few people any day of the year. Does that make sense? I think if people didn't celebrate holidays as much, we'd be a lot better off as a society. But I don't think that day will ever come because I think part of America is to be a consumer. I think that's a big part of being an American. It's to be a consumer. It's to consume as much as possible and to spend money on things that just truly don't matter, that don't benefit your life in any substantial way. But that is my rant. Let me know what you think about this topic. Let me know how you feel about holidays. By the way, huge request, leave a like below. Click the like button and please leave a comment. The YouTube gods do not like me. They do not push my content out very far. I don't know if I have a shadow ban or what it is, but I get my reach, despite how many subscribers I have, it gets to 5 people. So every like you give this video would help immensely. It'll help reach people like you that might enjoy this content. One more thing, if you want to do it, if you want to help me out, please share the video with people who might be interested in it. And hope to see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.